I glanced at the man asleep in the room, then got up and went to open the door. The visitor was tall and lean, dressed in a sharp suit, refined and polished, like someone from another world, completely out of place in this cramped, run-down neighborhood. I stood there, stunned for a moment. He gave me a polite smile, lifting one corner of his eyelid to scan the room inside. "Is your dad home?" I nodded without hesitation. He told me to step outside and wait half an hour before coming back. He had something important to discuss with my dad. I knew my dad wouldn't know someone like him, but seeing him covered in blood, clutching the man's legs begging for mercy, I still couldn't believe it. He was here to collect a debt too. His expression had gone cold now, his hand gripping a knife, the other holding a cigarette. Blood smeared across his cheek like a stain of madness, adding an ugly edge to him. Nothing like the calm, composed man from just moments ago. Catching me standing at the door in my peripheral vision, he froze, then his brows snapped together, and with a sudden kick, he hammered the guy on the ground. Didn't I say no delays? Truth was, there was no point hiding from me anyway. My dad getting hounded by debt collectors had become a regular thing. Yes, Mr. James is absolutely right. My dad suddenly lit up when he saw me, shouting hoarsely, "Mr. James, look at him, what do you think? Could we sell him to you? Even just to cover a bit of the debt?" I thought I'd long since shut down emotionally toward this man. But apparently, even after being completely drained, there was still a bitter residue left. Tasted awful. A sour wave rose from my chest straight into my throat. Couldn't swallow it down, couldn't spit it out. He said it for me. "Henry, you're not a man at all. You'd sell your own son." He crouched down, took a drag on his cigarette, and angled the smoke straight at my dad's eyes. A monster's eyes may be better off blind. Then he moved his hand lower, just slightly. My father was terrified, clamping his eyes shut and begging repeatedly. "I really have no money. William, get down on your knees and beg Mr. James to buy you back. Save your dad." I almost wished I could watch him go blind. See the skin blister, the flesh burn. I'd be first in line to cheer, but still, I dropped to my knees with a thud. I was sick of shadows, damp air, and constant rain. I wanted light, real sunlight. He didn't expect me to kneel. His whole body froze. A beat of silence, then a hoarse command, "Get up." I just stared at him, didn't move. He had the kind of face that looked decent even without trying. Dark hair pulled back neatly, clean cut, almost handsome by default. But when he locked eyes with you, that cold, twisted edge in his gaze gave everything away. He lifted my chin with the blade's tip, smiling, but his eyes were ice. "Kid, my knife only answers to money." My dad always said I had my mom's eyes. I clenched his hand, my eyes wet and locked onto his. "Mr. James, please, take me with you." His hand twitched, his expression blanked. A slow swallow rolled down his throat. I'd never seen my mom. Never even knew what she looked like, but maybe he was right. I clung to that hand. The one I'd waited 17 years for, the only one that could pull me out of this mess. He pulled me up, saying I shouldn't kneel to anyone so easily ever again. "And," he said, one hand pinching my cheek while the other roughed across my face twice, "stop crying so much." The alley's dim light flickered over cracked, peeling walls. Trash cans leaned sideways, spilling empty bottles that stank of rot and regret. Walking behind him, the faint scent of his skin drifting up now and then, I suddenly felt a chill, afraid he'd just acted on impulse, only to regret dragging me out later. "Walkin' beside me embarrasses you?" His voice startled me. He'd stopped right in front of me without me even noticing. "Or is it your legs hurt from kneeling?" He lit the cigarette between his lips, one eyebrow lifting, voice thick and lazy. "Need a lift?" "No." I took quick steps forward. Just as I reached him, he frowned and grabbed my shoulder hard. My instinct was to flinch like he'd hit me. Then came a sharp rip. The zipper shot down, baring a wide stretch of skin. His pupils froze. His face went pale. "Henry's a damn bastard? He actually hit you?" He yanked open my collar, pressed his fingers over the bruises on my chest, then stopped, his gaze searing into the cigarette burn scar at my collarbone. I should have burned out his eyes when I had the chance. His hands were rough with calluses. The touch sent a jolt through me like electricity. My neck blazed, hot and raw. "I'm fine." It doesn't hurt anymore. I snapped the zipper up fast, trying to hide the thundering heartbeat beneath my shirt. You think you can fool me? He muttered, exhaled smoke in frustration, then gripped my hand tight. Come on, let's go. The car's up ahead. Back home to get patched up. My hand went stiff in his grasp. I stared at his profile, my feet moving without thought, following him like a shadow. A faint spark flickered in my chest, like something brushing against a hidden nerve, igniting a quiet heat. Home, that word, I couldn't even remember the last time I'd heard it spoken aloud. His apartment was clean and tidy, smelling like crisp winter air, sharp sunlight on laundry, a hint of cold soap. Felt oddly comforting, nothing like I'd imagined. What threw me more was the cat. In my head, people who kept cats were usually gentle, patient, someone soft and steady. But Henry, he didn't strike me as either of those things. And it was a fat, fluffy orange cat to top it all off. The second we stepped in, it strolled up to his feet like clockwork. But the moment it caught sight of me trailing behind him, it froze, then bolted across the room, like I was some kind of monster. I stood there, suddenly awkward and unsure. He handed me a pair of fresh slippers with a quiet cough. Found him 2 months ago, he said. Only just started trusting people. Still skittish. Only then did I realize he was trying to comfort me. Before I could process it, a strip of cat treat landed in my hand. Come here, he said. It took him a full minute to wrestle the cat into his arms. Then he glared at it, rubbing its head like it owed him an apology. Stupid cat. Memories terrible. I didn't stop to wonder what he meant by that back then. I was too busy watching him. His hair was messy, a few strands falling loose across his forehead. The sharp edge in him, like icy wind through open windows, melted away all at once. He softened. I know soft isn't really the word for a guy like Henry. Big, broad-shouldered, built to hold things down. But right then, the whole scene felt unexpectedly warm. What are you staring at? Get over here and feed it, gonna bolt again if we don't. He wrestled the cat down, breathless. Turns out that come here was actually meant for me. All right, I scrambled over quick, close, the warm fuzzy vibe from earlier, all in my head. His face when he was coaxing the cat was dead serious, like the kitten owed him money, and the little guy was pinned down in a totally awkward position, all grumpy but too scared to resist. I couldn't help it. I almost snorted laughing. No wonder it took 2 months just to get him halfway tame. I dropped down beside him, trying to get a better angle for feeding the cat. Then suddenly, the animal flipped its mood like a switch. Eyes lit up, zero hesitation. It stared right at me and gave my hand a quick, eager lick. My chest softened in an instant. I blurted out, "What's it called?" He glanced up, throat bobbing once, then again. July. His voice was low. Found him in July. Something about that made me think he was tense. I just stared at the sharp line of his jaw. Mouth moved before my brain caught up. So, what's your name? James. James ducked his head, fingers brushing July's fur. Casual, like he'd just asked the weather. What about you? William. In just a few minutes, I already felt like I knew something about James. Cold and ruthless. That was just his act when collecting debts. He didn't say much, kept that stone-faced look. But he wasn't a bad guy. After my shower, I wore James's shirt and pants as makeshift pajamas. The shirt swallowed me whole, loose, hanging off like a tent, and I fumbled around in the bathroom for ages before finally stepping out. James stared at me for a beat, then quickly looked away. Take it off. His face was blank. No hint of desire, so deadpan I almost thought I'd misheard. What? He gave a sharp little nod toward the medicine cabinet beside him. Get undressed and come over here. I'm gonna bandage you. All right. Damn it, why didn't I see that thing earlier? I ducked my head fast, trying to hide the heat in my cheeks, missing the faint flicker of amusement in James's eyes. Applying medicine is something so ordinary for others that even a little hesitation would seem strange. But to me, it felt like facing a major crisis, because I'm attracted to guys. My dad knows. First, he hated it, thought I was a disgrace, almost beat me to death. But then, I got prettier, more delicate, became his little tool for pleasing both men and women alike. Back then, just sitting through dinner, a few hands on me, a kiss or two, it was enough to cover the debt for days. Now he's sold me off outright, no need to guess how deep in shit he is this time. Used to not care, men, women, They were all just hollow shells wearing skin. I could play shy with zero guilt and still slip out of their touches without a word. But James, he's different. When he looks at me, there's no hunger in his eyes, no lust. But with James, a man of such perfect build and looks, I didn't need to pretend. Just him being this close was enough to make my heart race, let alone in a situation like this now. I was terrified he'd think I was acting weird, so I bit down hard on my teeth, kept my head low, didn't dare look at him once. Why are you so tense? Just relax. No, not tense at all. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. All right, put it on. His voice was rough, low. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, teeth unclenching as I grabbed the shirt and shoved it on. By the time I'd finished dressing, James was already in the shower. The water hammered loud against the tiles. James said my room wasn't ready yet, so I'd sleep in his room tonight. I knew my dad must have known James was gay to hand me over like that. When James said that, I naturally took it as a hint. My nerves snapped taut again in my head. Almost forgot. This wasn't some soft-hearted rescue. I wasn't a stray he'd picked up off the street. I was sold to him to pay my dad's debt. A thing. Gotta keep him happy, make him feel like bringing me back was worth it so he wouldn't just send me away. The scent of lime body wash flooded my nose as I sank deeper into the tub. Smelled good, but I had no mind for it. I waited, stiff, tense for what came next. Nothing. The silence stretched too long, clawing at my nerves. After a pause, I bit down hard and edged slowly toward James, then carefully wrapped my arms around his waist. James went rigid. My breath caught in my throat. The next second, he flipped over and pinned my hand down, his half-lidded eyes snapping open, his face dark with menace. What the hell are you doing? I froze, too stunned to move, scrambling through thoughts. Was it because he thought I was too scrawny when he was rubbing in the medicine? Or did he find my scars disgusting? Did my advance gross him out, regretting bringing me back? Was he gonna toss me out or worse, kill me? Just as I was spiraling, he suddenly let out a laugh, sharp and jarring in the silence. I was just messing with you. James seemed to realize how terrible that joke landed. The smile froze on his face, voice dropping low. I do this all the time with my cat. All the time with his cat? Didn't he think the poor thing was actually terrified when it darted away? Feels like July's not just shy, he's kinda scared to death. Poor July. James propped himself up beside me, fingers lifting my chin as he muttered under his breath. You were bold enough when you begged me to bring you back. Guess even you can get scared. He stared at me a long time, the calloused pad of his thumb brushing softly over my jaw. I couldn't look into his eyes. I just locked onto the droplet clinging to the end of his hair, my face burning, swallowing hard as my pulse thudded in my ears. Was he kidding again? Forget it, he said, letting go, yanking his pillow off the bed and shoving it into my arms. If you're scared, just hold on to this. I lowered the pillow from in front of me and realized he'd already turned back over. Forget it. I'm not bringing you back for that. Once you're healed, I'll get you back to school. So James knew all along what I was trying to do, trying to win him over. That awkward joke earlier, he wasn't mocking me. He was shielding the pride I didn't even know I still had. When my heart finally smoothed out, the first thing I felt was pain. My nose stung, and I clenched my jaw hard to keep tears from spilling. It's been so long since I last went to school. Back then, I'd be dragged out of class by my dad, sometimes to let people touch me, sometimes just to beat me up. In a place like this, rumors spread faster than fire. I couldn't even lift my head at school. Later, he stopped letting me read anything, so I found work for kids my age. Ended up in a mechanic's shop. It was exhausting, but it paid better than most things. I wanted to run away and make it on my own. But after months of grinding, he took all the money I'd earned, lost it gambling, and I never saw my ID again. That's when I gave up, started believing him, the whole "you're mine, born rotten, can't be fixed" nonsense. That's how I learned to charm people. Just a few fake smiles and they'd fall all over themselves, dogs chasing bones, and sometimes sneak me cash. They kissed me, touched me, pitted me, but no one ever said, "Come on, let's get you back to school." I never cared before. Dignity, that got stomped into the dirt years ago. I didn't need it, but now, after all this time, that numb shame suddenly woke up, yanking at my chest like a rope pulling me down fast. I buried my face into the pillow, the one still smelling faintly of James, and whispered, "Thanks." James's life was dull. Worked as a ghost lawyer at a firm during the day, then hit the streets when there were jobs to be done, fighting with no mercy. He fights hard and ruthless, always carrying scars, some big, some small. Sometimes there are fine streaks of blood across his face. He doesn't care, figures it's just like a mosquito bite, nothing to worry about, but I do. A wound's still a wound, no matter how tiny. Every time I reach for a bandage to patch him up, he'll catch my hand, his eyes sharp with warning. "It's nothing. I told you it's fine." Every time I took out a band-aid and tried to put it on for him, he would hold down my hand, his eyes full of warning. "It's just a minor injury. I've told you I'm fine." After spending some time together, I realized James just wears that cold face by habit. Not that he doesn't laugh, more like he never learned how to show weakness. But deep down he's soft as hell. The way he grips my wrist is always gentle, like he's afraid of hurting me. First, I couldn't do a thing about it. Even after 2 years in the game, I was still just a kid compared to him, not strong enough to hold his hand steady and stick on a bandage. First, I didn't know what to do with him. Even though I'd been working for half a year and was stronger than my peers, compared to James, I was still like a greenhorn. I couldn't hold him down and stick it on him. But then one day, I stumbled onto his weak spot by accident. That night, he got blood all over his temple. Couldn't stop it. I watched the bloody tissues pile up in the trash, and my eyes went red in an instant. His expression froze. He fumbled to wipe my tears, but no matter how hard he tried, they wouldn't stop, so finally, he just gave up, lowering his head so I could tend to the wound myself. I said. He glanced at me carefully, seeing that my eyes were still wet, and changed course. "Try not to cry so much." Honestly, I don't cry often. I even hate tears. From the very start, I knew one thing: tears are useless, and sometimes it just brings worse beatings. But with James, tears somehow actually work. I don't know if he was scared by my tears, but whenever James had an injury on his body, he'd find ways to avoid me. One night I woke up panicking, couldn't sleep, so I wandered out and found James sitting on the sofa. His face was pale. He glanced at me once, then snapped, "Go back to bed." I didn't move. I just sat down beside him. He sneered, getting bold. "Huh. Don't even listen to me anymore. I've been too soft on you, haven't I?" "You." Only when my body was practically pressed against his did I finally grab the medicine he'd hidden behind his back. He always gets snippy out of nowhere. He's usually hiding pain, trying to scare me off. But I'm not some gullible idiot who runs at a glare. If my spit could heal wounds like an animal's, I'd have been licking his scars ages ago. So stubborn. So damn proud. It drives me crazy. He froze, then sucked in a sharp breath, the threat still hanging on his lips when I yanked up his shirt. "Be good. Turn around." I expected another argument, but he shut right up, face twisted with something awkward. After turning, he still tried to save face with a muttered, "Whatever." He's got that textbook build, broad shoulders, tight waist like a damn dog. But right then, all I could see were the wounds on him. Thick and thin, deep and shallow, crisscrossing his skin. It made my teeth ache. "You've had all these scars for a while?" He lit a cigarette. "No, just recently." "Was it because you let my dad go? Got punished for that?" He paused, then let out a scoff. "I'm not getting punished over some guy like your old man." He was lying. His wounds were all fresh. Old ones had healed long ago. They ran across his back and lower spine, places he couldn't reach himself. Had been rubbing the ointment on crooked. My chest tightened, a lump forming as I exhaled softly. "Bro, if you can't get it, just call me next time." His muscles twitched under my touch, and he let out a sharp little click. "I don't need that." I was too caught up in the ache in my chest to notice his ears burning red or that quiet, stifled sigh. For the next few days, I'd just sit on the couch waiting for him to come home, so I could change his bandages. He snapped at me a few times, tried to get rid of me, but gave up eventually and let it be. Every time, he'd bite down on a cigarette, jaw clenched tight, refusing to make a sound. I'd gently blow on the wounds, telling him not to hold in the pain. But James was stubborn. Either called me talkative or said my breathing bothered him. Never admitted it hurt. First, it was just his back. I'd pull up his shirt without a second thought. Then came the chest, abs, inner thighs. The spots got more and more awkward. When I hesitated too long reaching for the ointment, he narrowed his eyes. Don't want to do it? Fine, I'll handle it myself. You embarrassed by two guys doing this? Did I drag you into it? His voice rose, then cut off as he lit another cigarette. If not for worrying you'd freak out, I don't feel ashamed. I carefully applied the ointment to his wound. My heart fluttered in time with the tremor running through his muscles. I'm just worried you'll hurt. Hurts? It must have hurt a lot, with sweat dripping from his forehead and veins bulging on his neck. Every few seconds he'd catch his breath sharply. Yet still, he turned away stubbornly. Not hurting. Come on, bro. Just say it. If it hurts, I won't laugh. I already said I'm fine. James suddenly stood up, the anger flaring out of nowhere. He paused, then snatched the salve from my hand, awkwardly backtracking. You talk too much. I can do it myself. Only when I saw him shut the door behind him did I finally let out a shaky breath, clutching my racing heart. Putting ointment on him was pure torture for me. Every time, I had to adjust my breathing, fake the look in my eyes, the saliva I couldn't swallow, the sweat that wouldn't stop, and endless dreams I could never finish. But he said bringing me back wasn't about that star. I can't let him see what's going on in my head. After everything, this home, this fragile thing, I can't lose it. 2 weeks later, most of the wound had healed. The day he dropped me off at school, James kept fiddling with his hand, trying to hide his face. I sighed, already had a bandage ready. I reached out and gently pulled his hand down, then froze. A tiny bandage sat right above his eyebrow, looking kind of ridiculous on him. You're such a dork. His expression was awkward, glancing at me through the rearview mirror as he rubbed it, all annoyed. I'm just trying to keep your teacher from thinking you're some kind of mess. I stared at him, warmth spreading through my chest. Lately, I'd noticed James always said one thing but meant another, like how he never stopped complaining about July being chubby. But every time he came home, he brought back a whole stash of cat treats. When July darted out of my arms to run toward him, James scowled and gave its head an exasperated rub. Only when you bring snacks do I get a smile from you. What? Forget who's really in charge already? Or how he'd always snap at me for staying up waiting for him. What are you, trying to grow taller? The food was awful. I'm not eating that again. Yet, every single time I made him a midnight snack, he ate it all without a word. If you get bullied, call me right away. You hear that? He gave my head a firm ruffle. I snapped back to attention and nodded fast. James always wore a suit. Never knew if he actually liked it, or just used it to hide the edge he carried, like when I first met him. Polished, quiet, totally at odds with who he really was. The female teacher who picked me up stared right at James, her shyness practically radiating off her. He answered her questions half-heartedly, but there was a faint smile on his face, so smooth, so polished, like a different person altogether, perfectly put together. I usually loved seeing him in a suit, but today, the more I looked, the more it bothered me. All I wanted was to rip that jacket off, expose the tattoos and scars underneath, see if he could still pretend then. Instead, I cut in. Teacher, let's head to class. Hey, James, see you Friday. I walked off fast, didn't look back, didn't need to. I heard him pause, then a cold chuckle as he peeled off the bandage from his face. So eager. You're harder to tame than July. Before I dropped out, I was top of the class, always on the honor roll. Even though it's been a while since I've sat in a classroom, the shop owner's a good guy. He gave me his son's high school textbooks. I've been studying when I can. So yeah, back at school was tough, but not completely out of my depth. First parent-teacher meeting ever. My teacher praised how fast I'd improved. Even won first prize in the provincial English competition. James didn't say it out loud, but I knew he was proud. He took me out for a big meal and wanted to hang my certificate on the living room wall. That probably isn't such a good idea. The living room style clashed with that bright red paper. Every time I walked in, felt like a spotlight on my shame. He waved a hand. Yeah, maybe not the best fit. I let out a breath. But then he said, how about my room? It's got way too much empty space. It's red. Feels festive. Almost like it's Christmas already. Watching him stick the certificate up with such care, my throat tightened. Back then, I'd gotten awards before, but either my dad threw them away or used them to prop up a wobbly desk leg. This was the first time anyone treated one like something precious. That's why when I first made it into the top 30, I couldn't wait to tell James. I just wanted to see the look of pride on his face. But he never showed up that day. It was winter now. I could barely feel my hands and feet, but I stood at the school gate anyway, scanning every passing figure. As the sky grew darker, and the gate emptied until only I remained, my heart and body chilled with each passing second. I was terrified he'd leave me. After getting out of the car, James came running over. He grabbed my hands and rubbed them, voice tight with annoyance. "What kind of idiot are you? Didn't think to wait inside the security booth or in a classroom? How long have you been out here?" "Hands are like ice," cried. He lifted my face. "No, let's go," I said, turning away to hide the redness in my eyes. But before I'd taken 2 steps, he pulled me into his arms. "Sorry, okay. Something came up today. Phone died and I couldn't call you. I was just driving past and saw someone yelling at their dad for being late. William, listen, you're not some robot. When you're happy or hurt, let it out. Yell at me, slap me, make me apologize. Don't keep it all inside. Got it?" I blinked hard, swallowing the lump in my throat, voice rough and trembling. I got 29th in the district this time. I made the special control line, and my English was first in the district. I came in 29 in the mock exam. My voice cracked suddenly. I gritted my teeth, trying to hold back the tears, but they just kept falling. I was afraid you'd stop wanting me. No one ever gets happy just because I smile, and no one ever worries when I cry. Keeping it together is the only way to avoid messing up. I was afraid he'd think I was being melodramatic, so I pressed my hands hard over my eyes, trying to hold back the tears. But James gently took my hands away and his warm fingertips touched my face. But then James took my hands away, and his warm fingertip brushed against my cheek. "William, I'm not gonna abandon you. William, I'm not going to leave you. Promise." The only promise I've ever heard in my life was from my mom. She said she'd take me away from this house. But then she ran off, left me behind. I don't blame her, not even a little. In fact, I'm glad she got out. But now promises feel like a hot coal, burning bright and scalding. The brighter they glow, the hotter they burn. I dreamt that after a long time, James would find me boring and abandon me. I dreamt that one day James would get bored of me and just walk away. I only took you in because I felt sorry for you. What did you expect? That I'd support you forever. My chest seized up. Someone yanked on my heart, twisted it tight, and the pain stole my breath. I felt someone calling me, but my eyelids were so heavy I couldn't open them. My whole body was burning up. I blindly grabbed at something cold and rubbed it against my face. "I feel awful. So hot." He sucked in a breath. You're running a fever. I'll go get some medicine." "Hey, don't leave." This time, I finally managed to open my eyes and realized I was clutching James's hand. Just one lamp on the nightstand lit the room, all the light pooling right on our faces. Shadows danced over us. When we pulled apart, both of us were breathing hard. James brushed his hand across my forehead, checking if I'd spiked a fever again. Then my neck went scorching hot. My breath caught in my throat. My heart skipped once. He buried his face into my neck and laughed, shuddering with it. Between laughs, he said, "I like it too." It was the first time in forever I'd heard him laugh this happy, like a kid who just got a prize. My heart felt like it was being soaked in baking soda, bubbles rising up nonstop. I ended up grinning like an idiot right along with him. After that, James turned into a whole different guy, suddenly super clingy. He asked if I wanted to go back home and live with him. I said no. After missing half a year of school, I couldn't stand the thought of wasting any time. Eating or sleeping felt like cheating if it wasn't for studying. I want to get into a good college, don't want to let him down. Every weekend when I go home, he always makes time just for me, but I'm too busy grinding to catch up, usually locking myself in my room doing practice problems. At the dinner table, James suddenly said, "July says you've been ignoring him." I laughed. Was it July saying that, or you? He shut up, face all stern, clattering his spoon and chopsticks like he was mad at the whole world. James is easy to soothe. Just a hug or a kiss fixes him right up. Just tends to get a bit short on air sometimes. I swear he's catching on to the sweet spot of me pretending to be cute, and now he keeps starting drama on purpose. There's this kid in our class who's a math genius. Whenever I get stuck, I'll ask him. We ended up exchanging numbers, and now I'm texting him even when we're not at school. James goes full paranoid. You're cheating on me. He grabs my phone without warning. I knew you've been spaced out lately. Holed up in your room half-heartedly chatting with someone. Definitely. Then he cuts himself off mid-sentence. Well? Why'd you stop? I'm sitting back relaxed, watching him, thinking how ridiculously adorable he looks when he's jealous. Hair all messy from running his fingers through it, lighting a cigarette in a rush, hands shaking slightly as he flips through our chat history. Total checking my boyfriend's phone for cheating vibe. Nervous, tense, twitching like hell, and the way he looks when he realizes he's being ridiculous. Even more adorable. Can't meet my eyes, but still stubborn as ever. Study all you want, what's it got to do with me? I snorted. You really don't get why? Not to mention, who was it always dragging July around the front door, making a scene just to get my attention? Made it impossible for me to focus on studying. James squirmed. His lips pressed tight shut, not saying a word. Fine, I guess I've been ignoring him too much. I stood up and kissed him lightly on the lips. There we go. Good boy, once I finish this set of practice exams, I'll be all yours. He perked up a bit, his eyes brightening. I quickly covered my mouth. If you kiss me now, I won't be able to focus for at least 15 minutes. Caught red-handed, he coughed awkwardly. I wasn't even thinking about kissing you. As he left, he feigned nonchalance. Hurry up, then. Who'dve thought the same James who used to glare like a storm cloud and jaw off like a brick wall could now pull off needy little acts so effortlessly. Still, he kept his word, he didn't come back to bother me. Just as I was about to praise him, I noticed he'd already fallen asleep on the couch. Must have been dreaming. His brow was faintly furrowed. I gently brushed my fingers over his forehead and kissed his lips. He'd actually made time on purpose to stay with me this weekend. He had to be exhausted, and here I was, shutting him out, calling him annoying for being around. I'm such a jerk. Little did I know he'd been secretly smiling. His lashes fluttered as I went to get the blanket, and his lips curled up just slightly. Senior year, I only go home every 2 weeks. The day he learned the news, James didn't say much, but he had a really bad look on his face all day long. I didn't even realize until I woke up in the middle of the night needing to pee. I found him on the balcony smoking. The ashtray was piled with cigarette butts. What's going on? Nothing. He tried to shut the balcony door again. It's cold out. Go back inside and get some sleep. I didn't listen, I held the door shut. Stop smoking, or I'm moving back home. You said I'd distract you, right? Forget it. He crushed the cigarette, stepped inside, and pulled me into a long hug. Then he sighed. The winter break's coming soon. Just hang in there. Your studies matter more. Said, hang in there. But he still showed up every day with food. Every time he looked at me, it was like a prison visit, like he wanted to take me out, but couldn't. So damn pitiful. And lately, James had been showing up less. Fewer calls too. I told him not to come so often. Then when he actually stopped, I felt off kilter. The sports meet was my chance to go home for a couple of days. Didn't expect to walk in on him collecting debts. He didn't hold back, he'd left that guy sprawled, bleeding and groaning. Raised the steel rod like he was going to jam it right into the man's mouth. When James saw me, his hand froze, and he didn't continue. Far off, under dim light, the shadows on his face were unreadable. Wait for me out front. Afterward, he never met my eyes. Not a word. Just went straight to the bathroom to scrub the blood off his skin. The air around him was so heavy it made July hide in her corner. Hey man, what's wrong? Nothing. But something was wrong. Clear as day. The blood was washed clean, but he kept rubbing, like he couldn't stop. His hands were raw from it. I turned off the tap and gripped his wrist. What's really going on? I followed him out to the balcony. He lit a cigarette, then blocked me at the door. I'm fine, go to bed already. That night we slept on opposite sides of the bed. No touch, no warmth. He kept his distance. I stared at the ceiling, replaying his restless expression over and over. Couldn't stop my mind from spiraling. I'm scared I keep driving him crazy. Like he's tired of me, fed up. I had a nightmare. I dreamt my dad beat me so hard my insides were on fire, begging him to take me to the hospital. But he just gave me that cold, dead look and pressed his cigarette into my collarbone. William, quit thinking about running off. No one else would want you if it weren't for me. He crouched down, voice like something from hell. You called the cops, didn't you? Who cared? James is done with you, so come back, because you're only good for one thing. Rotting with me in hell. William, wake up. Cold fingers brushed against my face. Had a nightmare? Why were you crying? I opened my eyes, staring right into James's face. I knew it was just a dream, but the fear from it wouldn't let go. I wanted to reach for him, to ask if he was tired of me already. I then realized I was gripping James' hand so tightly that my nails were almost digging into his flesh. I quickly let go of his hand, just about to ask if he was hurt. I heard him hesitate and say, "You scared of me?" He took a half step back, his face pale and fragile. "You saw it. You're afraid." No. A harsh laugh slipped out, his eyes turning blood red in an instant. "You just figured it out. I wasn't ever a good man. You haven't seen the real me, what I do when collecting debts. Brutal. Bloody. I've blinded more people than I can count, sliced off tongues. Too many to remember. If you're scared, just get out. I don't want to see you ever again. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of you." I grabbed him around the waist, my voice cracking as tears spilled out. "You said you wouldn't kick me out." James froze, his chest, which had been heaving like a storm, slowly calmed. He pulled me back gently at first, then wrapped his arms tighter, almost like he wanted to fold me into himself. "I'm sorry. That was all just anger talking. I never meant not to see you." His face buried in my neck, voice trembling with quiet plea. "Don't be afraid of me, okay?" My chest tightened like a needle had pierced it. The ache rose sharp and raw. No wonder he'd been avoiding my eyes since coming back. Never touching me. He thought I was afraid of him all along. "I used to sneak into your school just to see you. The people around you seemed like they belonged in a whole different world. Laughing easily, clean, innocent, good. Not me. I'm dark inside. Quiet, can't make you smile. Hands stained with blood." He forced out a twisted grin. "William, I'm not a decent man. You're smart, you should go out there, have a real life. You deserve." His voice caught for a moment. "You'll find someone better." He lowered his head, wiping his face roughly. I gently lifted his face, my fingertip brushing away the warmth lingering at the corner of his eye. My own tears spilling freely now. "James, hear me out." He wiped my cheek, voice trembling. "I'm listening. I just wanted a sliver of light at first, but you gave me the whole sky. The moment you pulled me out of the dark, my life was already bright enough. James, no one's better than you." That night he held me tight, refusing to let go for a long while. A single hot drop landed on my neck. He whispered, "I love you." Just then, fireworks burst overhead. Blue ones, my favorite color. The roar of rockets piercing the clouds mixed with James's breath as he kissed me. My body igniting, rising weightless into the sky, burning bright and blooming fiercely. "James, you're hiding something from me, aren't you?" I asked suddenly, holding July on the couch. James frowned, settling beside me like he was actually thinking. "No way, why would I hide anything from you?" "Then what's this?" James's hand that was about to hug me froze, and his face also changed. He snatched the thing from my hand. "This, I bought it ages ago." He forced a laugh, eyes darting away. "What's wrong?" I smiled. "Your clothes?" After the exam, I figured I finally had some time on my hands, so I decided to do a full house cleanup. Made sure not to let the maid touch James's room. Did it myself. Never expected to find this jacket. It's mine. Back when I worked at the garage, I ran into a kitten that looked about a month old. I was worried it'd get picked on by bigger cats, so I kept bringing it food and water, even dragged it inside during rainstorms to keep it dry. One day the shop closed early, then it poured out of nowhere. I couldn't just leave it outside. So I sat under the apartment building, using my jacket to wipe off the rain from its fur. Later, someone told me Dad was looking for me. Ran back in a hurry. When I came back, both cat and jacket were gone. After that, I never saw the little guy again, and honestly, I missed him for weeks. James knew his story was ridiculous, so he bit his lip, glanced at me sideways. "I found it. Found it. Since when did you start picking through trash?" I pulled out the bottle cap and bandage from inside the pocket. Exactly what I'd used to give water to that kitten, and stuck on its wound. He froze, completely speechless. He was completely speechless. "So you've liked me all along? Then why'd you scare me with that knife?" "What was it again, kid? My blade only answers to money?" He set July down on the ground and lifted me up in his arms. Never mind, never mind. I was furious. So why did you have so many injuries back then? I haven't seen you get hurt much since. You didn't do it to yourself, did you? He froze for a beat, then swallowed hard. How could I? I'm not some sicko who'd do that to myself. He didn't dare to force it either. He let out a sigh and said, yeah, but those injuries looked scary, yet they healed really fast. How about you take a look? The scars are even getting really faint. Saying that, he yanked off his belt, ready to show me the marks on his legs. I scowled. You're kidding, right? He laughed, low and soft. What's wrong with that? If anything's messed up, it's this heart of mine. It only ever wanted you. James' side story. I was born without empathy, never felt much, never laughed. The only thing that stirred anything in me? Pain. So I became a brawler. Then one day I saw this kid. He'd stuck a band-aid on a wounded kitten. Tiny cut. Kitten licked it once and was fine. I thought it was ridiculous, so I started showing up every day, just to watch the cat, and him always showing up right after. Then somehow, I ended up collecting his stuff, the shirt he used as a blanket for the cat, the bottle cap he'd left out for water, a stray band-aid, and eventually just the damn cat itself. He didn't seem to go to school, worked at a garage instead. Young looking, but when he'd roll up his sleeves and sweat through his tank top while working, his arms were packed with muscle. I followed him for days, figured out where he lived. I don't even know what I'm trying to prove. This feels like something straight out of a sick fantasy. When I saw the name and address, part of me was terrified it'd be him. Another part couldn't help but hope it was. And then he actually answered the door. I told him to come back in half an hour, but his dad, he was a real pain in the ass, wouldn't budge on the money no matter what. Standing there, looking at me like that, God, I wanted to kick his father right through the wall. I'd never let anyone see that side of me before. Screw it. One way or another, I'm going all in. I warned him my knife only respects cash. Then he just grabbed my hand. His eyes were wet and wide, staring right into me, and suddenly, my whole chest went soft. Thank God that cat's been growing fast. Plump enough now that William didn't recognize him. I knew his dad had made him do things like that before. I was terrified he'd think I brought him home just to use him, so I told him straight. This wasn't about that. But every day after, I regretted it more than I could say. Whenever he insisted on bandaging me up, all I could think of was that damn cat. I didn't want to look like a joke. I snapped at him, harsher than I meant to, but when I saw his eyes go red, panic hit me like a slap. I realized I couldn't stand the sight of him crying, couldn't bear it at all. And yet, I still wanted to see that look in his eyes, the one where he's hurting for me. So I cut myself, just a little. The wound built up slowly. I cracked first. All the suffering was on my end. I've been torturing myself this whole time. Now finally, no more holding back, because he's furious, at last, over all the insane things I did. But I know he's worried about me. I was a kid from the orphanage, nobody ever cared. Then, at 23, someone finally did.